Coming to the park might not seem like much exercise. But the truth is, living an active lifestyle isn't just about the intensity. It's about taking time and doing it often. New York City might seem like a place where nature is hard to find. But in reality, there are many places where shrubs, trees, and flowers invite people to take a hike. 30 feet above 10th Avenue and Gansevoort Street lies the first access point of the linear park known as the High Line. The park is a product of the combined efforts of the city and of a non-profit organization who wanted to convert an abandoned industrial railroad in favor of more green space.
This is a little past of the season, but this is Amsonia hebrechtii.
Thomas Marr is the director of horticulture for the Friends of the High Line organization, which manages the park.
Diller, Scofidio, and Renfro, the architects, and James Corner Field Operations, the landscape architecture firm, had partnered together and came up with a concept that that they felt was about not destroying what was here, about celebrating what was already, what people loved about the High Line. And it came up with sort of 4 simple design philosophy points. Keep it simple, keep it wild, keep it slow, and keep it quiet. It's really an underlining value that we need green spaces. We need green spaces to relax. We need green spaces to be active and promote a physical active lifestyle. So as you walk along the High Line, you walk through big open meadow areas, enclosed woodlands, and sort of open scrub trees and shrub areas. So there's a variety of different landscapes with a large variety and diversity of plantings.
The High Line boasts over 300 kinds of plants with different blooming seasons. This past fall, one could witness the bright holly red, the wild spurge, and the aromatic aster.
If you look carefully, the pathways themselves, the way they pour the concrete is really interesting. The integration of sculpture and natural elements.
City with a lot of greenery and wonderful use of nature if you look for it and if you're open to it. And I think the High Line is a great addition. I'd love to see more parks and nature in New York, but every time we walk by the trees on my street, I comment on them. So you just have to look for it.
Another space that was recently transformed in favor of more green areas is the newly renovated Washington Square Park.
As you enter the park, it should feel like a park.
George Velanakis was a landscape architect who worked to eliminate concrete placements in favor of a more integrated and natural experience.
The goal here was to make this a greener park and a more cohesive park so that the geometries and the spaces were all kind of linked together. So when you pass through the park, you know there's a sequence of spaces. Prior to the park, what you had internally were pipe rail, a double pipe rail fence. And so when you came in, it was a lot of fencing. So the whole intent was to kind of bring back the old post and chain so it becomes more picturesque. It's all about the horticulture. It's all about not having all this fencing. And so you can really appreciate the greenery versus looking at all this kind of distractions. Sadly to say, back in 1970 and 69, they created this ugly, big, huge concrete wall around this space. And so back in that berm are the foundations of the wall that we kept. Because if you take out those old foundations, you can damage the tree roots of the tree.
The redesign removed ramps and interlaced natural corridors so that the park stands on its own and doesn't feel like a continuation of the sidewalk.
There's a lot of evergreens on the periphery and larger trees and some smaller trees and shrubbery and perennials. You kind of feel you're not really on the urban kind of periphery of the park, you know, along the sidewalks. You still feel like you're still within this kind of green corridor. People are aware, but they don't know what. They know that there's something really nice about the park. It's a big improvement, but they don't know what really changed.
It's just always had a really great vibe. There's drum circles, there's art happening here. It's just a really great space in an otherwise crazy city.
Well, I guess there's not too much else to go, and there's always stuff going on here, so it's kind of interesting.
Whether it be a repurposed railway line or a renovated piazza, the future challenges for gardening and architecture will be to offer more natural safe havens to get people to go outside.
I think for the future, these kinds of green spaces are going to be ever more important. Our cities are expanding. If we're going to continue wanting cities to be productive and livable for people, it's going to be very important that they have spaces that they escape to.
I always kind of felt like, this is my home and I want to make it more beautiful. And so to me, working at parks was part of that legacy of making our urban parks more beautiful.
By taking a few strolls through the parks, you can add at least 15 minutes of exercise to your week, and you might find something fun to look at on the way to your next destination.